Okay, gang, in the New Testament, this is week 36 of our Bible read-along program, and this week we're going to wrap up 1 Corinthians, this diagnosis and cure for the problems of the Corinthian church. In chapter 13, we get the full expression of what that cure is. It's right in the middle of the discussion about spiritual gifts and speaking in tongues, but it's about love, famously, certainly the most famous chapter of 1 Corinthians and one of the most famous chapters of the whole Bible. But not just dropped in at random. Exercising spiritual gifts, if it's not about love, it's not about God. And this has been the theme, really, of the entire book and articulated in various ways throughout. The one thing we ought to understand, especially in the context of receiving gifts from God, but in anything we receive in the gospel, is Christ-like love. Chapter 15, then, as chapter 14 wraps up the discussion of speaking in tongues, chapter 15 turns to a different kind of problem. People who are struggling to believe in the resurrection of the body. This may have to do with the fact that for people of the Hellenistic world, the Greek world, the body seemed like something lowly and shabby, and why would you want to have anything to do with that if there is an eternity? Certainly it must just be the spirit that lives on. It's an idea that's come into a lot of Christians' thinking, but it's the opposite of what the Bible talks about. So Paul says Jesus was raised from the dead, leaving the tomb empty. Not just a visionary experience, but in his physical body, the same body he died in. And so God is going to raise us up, body and spirit. And this will be the complete victory over death. This is why though death remains an enemy, it is a defeated enemy. An enemy that can even be taunted. Oh, death, where is your sting? So, this is an important corrective to some popular level thinking in our own time. It also helps us see how the Lord is bringing creation full circle back, that he gave us life, and now in the resurrection, he gives us new life. Of course, we're not just resurrected in the future. By faith in Christ at baptism, we are, according to Romans, raised to new life in the present as well. All right, chapter 16 is Paul's closing greetings to the Corinthians. He's going to mention that he's taking up a collection. This is an offering that Paul was taking from his churches out in Asia Minor and in Greece and Macedonia, and he was taking that back to the Jerusalem church as an expression of thanksgiving, as an expression of gratitude to them, solidarity between Jewish Christians and Gentile Christians, just expressive of so many things. And so he's asking them to participate in that, and we'll say more about it in 2 Corinthians. Well, what about 2 Corinthians? We're just going to get started on this, okay? Now, as we do, I want us to note there could have been other Corinthian letters. In 1 Corinthians 5:9, Paul may be mentioning a previous letter that he wrote prior to 1 Corinthians. In 2 Corinthians 2:4 and 7:8, he talks about a letter that was very harsh, and that could be a letter other than 1 Corinthians. So there's as many maybe as 4 letters to the Corinthians. It's also clear from 2 Corinthians that Paul made a visit to the church at Corinth between the 2 letters, one that is not recorded in the book of Acts. That's not really a surprise. What we want to realize out of this is the church was actually kind of selective in the way that it saved some letters to circulate to other people. Probably, if there were other letters, they weren't of significance beyond the Corinthian church itself. But when they read these 2 letters, they said, this is so good, we've got to share it with others. And that's how our New Testament came to be. But what's going on in 2 Corinthians? Well, in chapter 1, I want you to pay special attention to the way that Paul speaks of God giving comfort. We'll use the word comfort, noun and verb, maybe 7 times or so, just right there in the Thanksgiving section of the letter. And then he's going to go on to say, I don't want you to be ignorant about what I experienced while I was in Asia, meaning Asia Minor, probably Ephesus on his 3rd missionary journey. He says, I despaired even of life itself. I think 2 Corinthians, honestly, is maybe the hardest book of the New Testament to understand. Harder than Revelation? Yeah, I do think so. Not because it has difficult figures of speech the way Revelation does, but because it's so raw and it's so personal. That kind of stuff is hard, even if we understand the meaning of the words. So I really urge you, as you're reading this letter, to kind of embrace the full person experience that Paul is sharing in this. There's some very heady stuff, but there's some deep heart stuff as well, and it's just flowing out of everything. So sense who this guy is and how the gospel is affecting a person of such intellect and such feeling as you're reading this letter. Okay? Great fun here. I hope that you enjoy your reading during this week. And let us know how you're doing, okay?